Once you acknowledge something is a contradiction, and for you to believe that, then that is a fallacy. It is a logical fallacy to accept something that has internal contradictions. For example, do you know that Jesus himself, he never actually claimed that he was God? Yes? So Jesus never claimed. I feel like celebrating. Alhamdulillah.
I've just said all I know, so
yeah,
it's a bit too late.
We are not here, like I said, to ridicule you or to mock you. We're just discussing from a logical perspective. Yeah, something that we both can agree upon as being logical, consistent, and rational. Yeah.
Yes.
So if Jesus during his lifetime, do you believe that Jesus is a really good role model? And what he taught people was the truth?
Yes, I do. That's as a Catholic, that's what I have to
Do you remember
believe,
the phrase Jesus used? I'm the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes.
Yes. You know, as Muslims, I have no issues with that, because we as Muslims, we believe that Jesus is a prophet of God, he's a messenger of God, and he is the Messiah. Did you know that? We Muslims we accept him and acknowledge him as the Messiah, unlike the Jews who reject him as the Messiah.
So you do not believe that he rose from the dead, right?
No, we don't believe he died at all. So that's another thing that we can deal with. But right now, we're dealing with the statement of Jesus himself. So when Jesus says that he's the truth, then you and I know that he cannot say something which is a contradiction. That's the reason you'll never find an explicit statement in the entire Bible where Jesus claims that he's Almighty God. In fact, he says...
Yeah, there is... that leads me to a point I have to make about the Catholic Church.
Sorry, I'm just getting some water. Yeah, go on, yeah.
Yes, opposed to Protestant denominations of Christianity, in the Catholic Church we believe that the Bible is one source of the revelation, but the other source of the revelation is the tradition of the Church, the way it's been passed on from generation to generation, starting with the apostles. Yeah, so we believe that what the Church is doing, the Catholic Church is
following in the footsteps of the apostles.
Yeah, because the apostles were there with Jesus.
Yeah. Not all of them.
Yeah.
There were some self-confessed apostles like Paul who never met Jesus in his life.
Not personally, no.
You know what I mean? Paul never met Jesus in his life.
Yeah, but he wasn't one of the 12 apostles, was he?
He was not, yeah.
No.
But there are people who claim that he's an apostle of Jesus, of Christ.
Okay, but only the sense in the 12 apostles that followed.
That's what you're referring to.
But anyway, the Church is supposed to take the message from Jesus from one generation to the next, and that's as an addition to what is in the Bible. Yeah, because you've got the Bible as the way it's written.
So you have the way of the Bible, you have the teachings of the Bible, and you have the teachings of the apostles and the church fathers and so on. This is what forms the tradition of your Catholic Church. I think it's the same with the Eastern Orthodox as well.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Have any of the 12 apostles worshipped a triune God? Or even Jesus Christ? Has any one of them worshipped God as a Trinity?
I'd say they must have done, because that's how they.
Don't assume.
That's how they.
I want to know.
That's how they.
I don't want you to speculate. I want you to show me evidence from something that is credible, whether the Bible or let's say the sayings of the apostles or something like that. Has any one of them ever worshipped a triune God?
I'd say yes, because then.
Don't speculate unless you got evidence. Because what you're saying is, I think maybe. That is not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for your opinion.
Yeah. But the way I'm saying this is, I believe the Church is teaching exactly what Jesus was teaching to the apostles, and then the apostles to the next generation.
Where is the evidence? Where did the Church get the evidence from any of the apostles or from Jesus Christ, or in fact anyone from the Bible?
Yeah, that's where faith comes in, right? That's where faith comes in, because otherwise,
is Trinity an important part of your faith? Can you be a Christian if you don't believe in the Trinity?
No, because that's part of the teaching. Yeah, you have to.
So it's one of the central doctrines of Christianity, right?
Yeah.
How can something which is central and core belief and a doctrine not ever be mentioned by anyone in the entire Bible? Think about this. Something which is central to your belief. Without that belief, you would not be a Christian. How can something so important be left out from the 73 books you have, which is more than the Protestants? They only have 66 books. Yeah? From all the 73 books, it's been left out. Why? Isn't that something you need to think about?
I'd have to look in on all the books, but like I mentioned, there's the Bible and there's the teaching of the church. Yeah,
no,
so
but look, the church doesn't
the tradition.
Listen to this. The church gets its information from where? From the teachings of the apostles, like you said.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm asking you, has any of the apostles ever worshipped a triune God? Have they ever worshipped the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as God, like the way you do?
Yeah. So the point I'm making is that if the church, if we assume, and I believe that throughout these 2,000 years, the church has been passing on the teaching of the apostles. Yeah.
Where is this teaching? That's what I'm asking you. Where is the teachings of the apostles which actually say or they imply that they worship the triune God? Where is this?
Yeah, that's what I said about the two pillars of the teaching of the church. Yeah? So
look, I acknowledge that as a Catholic you have to not only just believe in the Bible, but also the tradition of the church. But when I asked you, does the church, where the church gets it from, you agreed that it gets it from the teachings of the apostles. Now the teachings of the apostles, where are they? And which teaching implies that they worship a triune God?
Yeah, so the point I'm making is that not everything that the apostles were teaching must have been written down in one of the Gospels. That's why we have the tradition as the other pillar, because it's
So
complementary.
Is it orally? Did they get it orally?
Yeah, because if you look at the Gospels when they were written, I think they were written down like 60 or 70 years after Jesus was born. So for that time, before they wrote it down, they must have been passing it on orally, to the following generations until they wrote it down. I think that's how it worked.
Where is this writing? You say they wrote it down eventually. Where is this writing of the apostles?
Yeah, it's in the Gospel, but they might have not.
They missed out the most important thing in your faith, the Trinity. Wow.
Yeah, I don't think it's the most important, is it? It's
you just told me you can't be a Christian unless you believe in the Trinity. So it is the most important thing. Like in Islam, if anyone says we don't believe in Allah, or we don't believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or we don't believe in the Quran, then they are not Muslims.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so if no one believes, if a Christian doesn't believe in the Trinity, is he still a Christian? Is he still a Catholic?
Yeah, no, because to be a Catholic, to be a Catholic, exactly like you said with Islam, you have to believe.
Yeah.
You either if
Otherwise
you believe,
they will be anathematized. Yeah, anathema. They will be kicked out of the church. Yes.
Exactly.
So now the question, once again, if the Trinity is so important, why did the Gospels leave it out? Why did the entire New Testament leave it out? Why did even the teaching of the apostles doesn't contain this? The worship of a triune God. Do you know when let me just help you out here. Do you know when the Trinity was established by the church? When did they come as a council? Yeah, the ecumenical councils. When did they come together and establish the doctrine of the Trinity?
Oh, I don't know the year. You can tell me.
Roughly, give me a rough idea. I don't want you to tell me the exact year.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't even know the date, the birth date of Jesus exactly. So I doubt they'll know the date when they have established the Trinity. But it is there in the church writings. So I'll give you the year. It's the year 325 CE, yeah, the common era. 300 years after Jesus Christ. Okay?
Yeah.
So Jesus was long gone.
There was some other
The apostles were long gone. Some of the early church fathers were long gone. And then we had this, there was a kind of a dispute in the church between the Arians and the Athanasians. Okay?
Yeah.
And when the Emperor Constantine, he became the head of the church, or the head of, let's say he became a Christian, or at least he kind of implied that he became a Christian. That's when these old councils were then organized, and I think he was even the chair or in the head of that particular council, the Council of Nicaea, in the year 325. So the churches all got together, and because there was a lot of dispute between the Athanasians, who said that Jesus was not God, but he was kind of divine, but not exactly God. Yes, and the Athanasians said no, he was God, and he's one with the Father. Yes, and so on. So there was a dispute. There was a dispute in early church history when they did not come to an agreement. Yes, so for some years, Arian was the head of the church, even, or one of the fathers of the church, and they accepted him. Then they kicked him out, and then they made Athanasius the main. They accepted his teaching as the main teaching of the church, and that is when the Trinity was established within the church.
I understand. Yeah, that.
So this is long after the apostles died. See what I mean? 300 years after Jesus, long time after.
Yeah, I understand.
None of them were alive to say, yes, Jesus taught us, and that is the reason now what the Council of Nicaea proclaims as a doctrine is something that all the churches will now agree. They did not give the green light for that. It is the churches who came to the conclusion based on several factors, including political factors, yes, like Emperor Constantine, because he wanted to unite all these people, which is good for the politics, isn't it? If you're divided, then it's not good for politics. It's not good for his empire. Empire which is united is better than one that is divided. So there are political factors playing here as well. And that is the reason I'm telling you that if this is a central teaching of Christianity, then surely Jesus would have taught it. You know what Jesus did? He did the exact opposite. Shall I tell you how?
Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, didn't Jesus say he was Son of God?
Yeah, but what does that mean? What is your understanding by the phrase Son of God? Because Adam is also called the Son of God in the Gospel of Luke. Yes, David is called the Son of God. Abraham is called Son of God. There are many sons. You know, like Sheikh Ahmad Didat used to say, there are sons by the tons in the Bible. So what do you exactly or actually mean by the phrase Son of God?
Yeah,
Don't forget the context 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, the second person of the Holy Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
No, but what does the term mean?
Didn't the apostles call Jesus the Son of God?
But like I said, there are many sons. They call many people as sons of God. In fact, the peacemakers are called the children of God. So if you're a peacemaker, then you're a child of God, according to the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, as people, we might be called children of God. Yeah.
So what's the difference between? What's the difference? Give him, brother. He's got very few on him.
Why do we need so many?
Because they're different cameras. That's why. They all have their own audio.
Okay.
Oh, you got two. Wow. Yes, two. Good. Makes us very special. Okay. So yeah, children of God is a phrase that the Hebrew people used to use at that time, 2,000 years ago, for anyone who was righteous, anyone who is close to God, you know, anyone who was pious. They're called children of God. It's not because if I said today in English, you are a child of X, immediately you think of biological child, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a biological relation. So your parents are you're the child of your parents. So you're the biological child of our parents, and this is one way how we understand as a child of someone.
Yeah.
What are the other ways? What are the other way you can interpret this phrase? This phrase, son of God, or son of, let's say son of Max. How will you understand it?
Yeah.
So one is a biological son.
Influenced by, doing things that this person taught whoever we call.
Yeah.
however we call the son.
So for example, there's also a phrase in English, father of a nation. Yes?
Yeah, set something up.
Is he really a biological father of the entire nation? No, it's not. It is a phrase to establish a special relation where people show leadership or authority within the nation.
Yeah, but then I think we're going back to whether you believe the church or not. I think that's
we are now interpreting the context of certain phrases that was used in the time of Jesus, or even before him. Like I said, David is called the Son of God. Adam is called the Son of God in the Gospel of Luke.
Yeah. Well, for this you have to have much deeper knowledge than I do about Bible and the ties.
Look, like I said, how they saw it, based on their context, based on their interpretation, based on their culture and tradition, it wasn't a biological son. So anyone who's called the Son of God is not a biological son. Like I said, it was someone who was righteous, someone who was pious, and someone who was close to God in his actions. Yes? Jesus, Jesus was certainly not a biological son of the Father. Do you agree? Do you agree? He's not a biological son. Biological son means the Father united, had a relation with Jesus' mother, and that's how he was born.
Yeah,
that's not how it happened. It wasn't a biological
all I will say that this is, as I believe, the teaching that's been passed on, and I can either believe that this is the teaching of Jesus and the apostles, or I can say someone invented this, and it's not true.
Invented. It's how you interpret it, my friend. It's a matter of interpretation. So there are three. Look, in English there are three ways in which you will understand the phrase son of someone. Okay? So it's either biological or it's by adoption. So if you adopt a child, then he becomes your son by adoption. The third one is metaphorical. Yes? It's allegoric. That means it's a figure of speech. Yes? So in many cultures and traditions, like for example, in Asia, or even in England, yes, if somebody says, some older person says to you, my son, I got some news for you. Yeah?
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're his son.
Exactly, yeah. So that's metaphorical. So you're neither adopted nor biological son. He sees you as a son, someone that he sees you as likable, someone dear to you. Yes, even he might be a complete stranger, but he sees you as a likable person. He says, my son, I got some news for you, I got something to tell you, or something like that,
Sure, yeah. But
so it's how you interpret it, my friend.
All I can say is coming down to whether we believe the church or not.
No, it's how the church interprets it and how the culture of Jesus interprets it.
Yeah, but then if you go back to what I said, that church passes on the tradition as well as the Bible is one source, and then tradition in a sense that not everything was written down. Some things have been just passed on orally.
Yeah, but look, for something to pass on orally, you must have some evidence for that. Like for example, if I asked you, okay, the apostles told whom, and how did it pass on for 300 years or 400 years?
Yeah, but that's what I mean about the belief. Yeah, you have to believe that this is passed on.
So is it blind belief? Is it blind faith? Because if you don't have any evidence for this passing on, even orally, then it is blind faith. In Islam, we also have the culture and tradition of oral tradition, passing on either the Quran or the Hadith. The Hadith were written down much later. Yes, but then most of them were passed on orally. But then we have a tradition called the Chain of Narration. Yes? So say for example, you passed it on to him, he passed it on to someone else, somebody else passed it to someone else, all the way until those people who compiled these various narrations, all the way from the Prophet through the medium of all these different generations, they have even the names and the biography of every individual in the chain. This is how we have evidence of the collection of the Sahih Hadith, or the authentic Hadith, from the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ until Bukhari or Muslim or Imam Ahmed in the early days who have written it. So we have a chain of narration. You Christians don't have such a tradition. You cannot
You know,
tell
you-
me
you
how
can-
it was passed on. I mean, you don't even have the names, let alone the biographies. We have these biographies which are preserved in something called
what
the
we've
Ilm
got,
al-Rijal.
yeah. Well, what you've got church documents that you can look back whether 1,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, did church teach the same thing or
That's
not?
still 500 years after Jesus.
Yeah.
So how can you
Okay,
rely
yeah.
on something? There's a gap of 500 years between Jesus and the earliest written traditions. See what I mean? We have this, not only the oral tradition, but we have both the written and the oral. So we have the early manuscripts of the Quran, even early manuscripts of the Hadiths and so on. And we also have the oral way of preservation. We have both. That makes it a strong case for the authenticity and reliability of these narrations being passed on from one generation to another. Yes, independent attestation by various people in various regions of the world.
Yeah, but then
Yes.
again, you have to trust whoever wrote it down.
So it's blind faith. That's what I'm saying. How do you know? You know the conversation we have.
Yeah, but
right
if you have a record of
you don't have the
written
writing.
down.
That's the thing.
yeah, but
That's
I
the
mean,
point
I
I'm
mean,
making. You
I
don't
mean,
have it
if you do have a record from a couple of hundred years ago, you still have to believe that whoever put it down a couple of hundred years ago.
What about the gap of 500 years? How,
Yeah, but I'm saying
how would you know that there were?
No, I'm saying now in your case, if you have a record of who passed it on to whom, you still have to believe that someone didn't make a mistake, or maybe
Exactly. You know why we have the record of the biography of each person? Is to ensure that such a thing like a mistake doesn't happen. So imagine this. I'll give you one way how they make sure to differentiate between a hadith which is authentic, a narration from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which is authentic compared to the one that is not authentic or even weak. So imagine within the chain of narration you have, let's say, 5 people. One of the persons within the chain the message was passed on to is someone who is very old and his memory lapses. So he forgets things or he adds things from himself. Yes, not deliberately, but because he forgets, because of his
Yeah.
age. His memory is not the same as it was when he was young. The people who collected the hadith, they look at this as a condition of weakness. So they categorize that as a weak hadith, or even they reject it, depending on how the criteria works out in this case. So there was a specific criteria they would employ to classify the hadith as authentic, weak, fabricated, and so on. See what I mean?
yeah, I can see
Another
your point there,
example-
but
yeah.
still you have to
No,
trust.
my friend, this is a rational